Man, by the way, I think I just heard Chelsea Gray make another three.
Yeah, I think, hold on. I think it's 5 o'clock. She's probably making another right now.
Man, I'm your host, Saul Bookman, alongside Hayden Silly. We're in the house today talking about the Merc, of course, so that's fantastic. Yeah. I'm happy to be here with you, man.
Dude, I'm excited you're here. First time of the season that the GM is on the show. Come on.
Yeah, Espo and I said, you know what, we're gonna tag team the hosting duties on this, and it's gonna be fun. So hey, this is how we get down. So first of all, the team hasn't been faring so hot.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there was a lot of excitement with Nikki Blue, but we'll get to that in a second. But unfortunately, on the court, results just haven't produced at the level that I'm sure the team and the fans would like. What are your overall takeaways in the last couple of weeks?
It's interesting. I think of it like baby steps, right? First, when you raise a child, I don't know nothing about this, so if I mistake something, just don't quote me on anything. But
I got 4, so I'll let you know.
But before you walk, you have to crawl.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with players in this system, that's kind of how it is. It's like getting your feet wet. Just do the little things: effort, rebounding, like all the stuff that a lot of the teams like Las Vegas, New York, Washington, Connecticut, that they do really well. Those things are so important. And if Phoenix can get to a point where they can do those things consistently, I think then you can actually start implementing offensive schemes and strategies and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Well, I think by and large, everybody's been struggling a little bit. I think Brittany Griner's been the most consistent player that they've had, but you think that there's been one other person that's been just as consistent. Who is that?
I do. She's a former New York Liberty forward, Michaela Onyenwere. Last 5 games, mostly in the month of July since Nikki Blue has taken over. Get this, 10 points, 19 points, 24 points. Unfortunately, had no points in the win against LA, was in big foul trouble, and then 18 points against Vegas. Mind you, she's playing, the highest minutes per game was 32. That was when she was starting. Mm-hmm. So in, I want to say 3 of the 5 games, she was coming off the bench and just producing really big. And a lot of it is just, man, she can make a tough shot.
Yeah.
She loves to post people up, do isolations. She's one of those combo forwards / guards where she's too quick for big forwards, like your 6'3", 6'4" forwards, but she's too strong for your guards. Yeah. So it's kind of like a mismatched nightmare a little bit.
Okay, I can see you.
Yeah.
Also, I have a cool Michaela story.
Really?
Yes, I do.
I want to hear it.
Former Bruin, but also former Grandview High School Wolf.
Oh.
And I used to coach girls high school basketball out in Denver.
Really?
And my very first game as a JV coach, or varsity coach, but we had such a small school because we were still in like year 3 of a new school. We played in this JV tournament, and Michaela was a freshman on that JV team. And we were talking about strategy, and she was taller than all the other girls. And I saw her in layup lines, and I knew she was pretty athletic. So I was like, all right, we're really going to have to focus on her, right? And I'll never forget, one of my girls stole the ball, was dribbling. It was like a breakaway. And Michaela was sizing her up the whole way. And as soon as that – I swear she put the ball in the glass, because in my head, Michaela was like above the rim and just slapped the glass, slapped the ball. She did slap the glass. No bull. She did slap the glass. And I was like, she's a freshman? Are you serious? Like, that's my Michaela Onyenwere story. Like, she was a phenomenal athlete back then. I've always been a fan of hers, so I'm glad that she's one of your consistent players.
Grandview High School, all the way in Denver. I had no idea you were out.
Yeah.
You were out in the Mile High City,
right by Parker, Colorado. There you go. So, dude. Listen, man. I think you're right. There's some adjustment that needs to be made, as any head coach would need some time to kind of develop their system and the players. And really, I think obviously the change came at a key time, but as we talk about that, Nikki Blue did replace Vanessa Nygaard. We've been around. We haven't been around for a couple of weeks, so we got to talk about this. Nygaard was 17-31, 2-10 this season, just not getting the results that you want. I always felt from the outside looking in that the vibe amongst the players just was not at a very high level with Vanessa. And I don't know if that's fair or unfair, but the vibes were not high, and you had to make a change. So here comes Nikki Blue, who replaces her. Nikki, here in the Valley, she was passed over for the ASU head coaching position. in favor for Natasha Adair. She's also been around the league. She's had her opportunities to be an assistant coach and help out with some coaching staffs. But now she gets her opportunity. I'm very excited to see what she's going to do. What's your overall impressions of her so far?
Yeah. One thing I do want to add, she also was at GCU for a little bit too. Helped rebound their program, was one of their ADs as well. But yeah, I mean, she's good. She knows her stuff. And not to say that Vanessa didn't, but Nikki Blue's been coaching since 2008 collegiately. I mean, spent 8 years at UNLV, then went to GCU and ASU. But she has a lot of experience, but people just respect her. Yeah. And that's what I think really the big sort of the underpinnings were with the move of removing Vanessa and adding Nikki in, was because people are going to respect her. It's a different voice. It's someone that has a legit system. I mean, people forget Nikki Blue was an all Pac-10 player, like all throughout her 4 years of college. I mean, and I remember her, and I don't remember. I was too young to watch that game, but that's no knock on you. But yeah. I mean, there were games where her and Lindsay Whalen were going back and forth, forth in those tournament games. I mean, and Nikki Blue can hold her own, and I think if anybody is fit for the job, it's definitely her.
Yeah. Well, we heard from her at her initial availability. So let's take a look at what she had to say about being the new head coach for the Phoenix Mercury.
I feel very prepared. And this morning I was thinking about how prepared that a brain surgeon is on his first surgery, right? So they go to school probably for about 8 years. And then they study a little bit more. And then they're in the operation room with other doctors to see what's going on, and then they get their first shot. I feel like I'm ready. I've been an assistant coach for 15 years. I've been under some fantastic head coaches. And I feel like I'm ready. I've been groomed for this. And, it's finally my opportunity. So I'm going to make the most of it.
I just want to go back to this real quick. If I ever hear my doctor say, hey, I've been in the room, I've seen what's going on, but they haven't really done it, I don't want them operating on me. I'm sorry, Nikki. This just ain't going to happen, okay? But in regards to, listen, she does have to dissect what this team is all about. See what I did there? She's got to figure out, really, there's a lot of tough decisions that she's going to have to make as she moves forward, right? If she stays on past this year, you have a blend of talent that right now is not cohesive, and you have to figure out how that's all going to come together. And I think with Brittany Griner, clearly, I feel like right now, Brittany Griner is kind of taking the torch as the best player on this team. I don't think that's even debatable. DT's on the decline. Obviously, she's coming to the end, and you still have Skylar that's out, getting workouts in, but you never know when she's going to return, if she's going to return. And there's just so many things that are unknown about this team that she's going to have to figure out. How do you think she's done so far in trying to navigate this process? Because as you said earlier, you got to crawl before you walk. But in the WNBA, you might not ever get a chance to take a step up because you might get cut. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'll say it like this. I think the most important thing that she's done is be consistent. Nygaard had a lot of changing lineups, had a lot of, for example, one game would be Michaela, one game would be Breezy. And it's like, it's not going to work like that. It's not. Brianna Turner is, in my opinion, too valuable, and I can discuss a little bit later too if need be. She can't come off the bench. Her defensive value is too high, but her offensive ceiling is pretty limited, as we know. And, when you have going back and forth between starting and coming off the bench, your role changes. I don't care what position you play. The impact that you make on the game isn't going to be the same because you might be playing for 35 minutes or you might be playing for 20.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, I've never been a fan of inconsistent lineups. I understand sometimes matchup wise, but for example, when Sophie and Michaela would be you're starting 3 and 4, they would get killed on the glass.
Yeah.
Right. But they would do it from an offensive standpoint because, okay, we could play 4 out, 1 in because you have BG. But here's the thing. BG is great, but BG, she's not sprinting up and down the floor like Usain Bolt. She's not going super fast. And so, and her game too is really different. there's not a player like BG who can kill you from 17 feet in. And so
it kind of reminds me of Tim Duncan.
Yes. I like that a lot. That's the comparison I've been thinking of a lot this year. Just knows where to be, and I don't want to say isn't too flashy, but just she takes what the defense gives her. But the team's been consistent from a starting lineup perspective. They finally got Mariah Jefferson back in the lineup, but a lot of it has been just effort. A lot of it has been focused on the defensive end, just playing hard.
Yeah.
Right. Although their defensive rating has not been good at all, if I can even pull it up.
Watching the Aces game the other day, I think I probably saw about 20 mental errors of just people wide open at the rim for a variety of reasons, whether it's just not communication on switches, not talking on double teams, and these are the things that you're going to have to adjust. I think maybe to a certain degree, maybe you're talking about a coach prior that wasn't as in tune with getting their message across to these players to make sure that there's a sense of urgency on every possession. Yeah. And right now, this team is just not playing with that sense of urgency. They have way too many mental lapses, and you really can't be that inconsistent. And you get exposed when you play against a team that they have twice in the last 2 weeks, like the Las Vegas Aces, who absolutely put it to them. Now, the Aces are the best team in the league. Don't get me wrong. But again, you can't make those kind of errors because a team like that will expose you each and every time.
Saul, here's the weird thing, was that a week ago when they played New York, it was only a 4-point game. And they played great with the exception of the first quarter when they were down by 20. But even if they were only down by 10, they would have won the game. They would have won. And
if ifs and buts were candy and nuts.
Yes, I know. It's so crazy to me because some games they look like a top team. They do. Everybody's hitting their shots. The ball is moving, very sound. People are playing defense, steals, blocks, knowing when to rotate, when to switch, all those little things. And then there's games like Vegas where people just kind of look like they just wanted to go home. I don't know if they were ready to kick their feet up because they were in Vegas. The All-Star break, maybe they were actually paying you a visit down there. I don't know.
Probably not.
But I mean, it's just lazy. I'm no basketball guru. I never played, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But you can't teach effort. You just can't. And I don't care who you play. You play the worst team in the league. Well, you can't because that's Phoenix. But you could play. You could play Seattle. You could play.
You can't
Indiana.
play yourself.
Yeah. Even if they did, they might lose. But but they could play one of the worst teams in the league. And then you could play Vegas. You have to play the same. You do. It doesn't matter what the record is. And it makes me mad, Saul. It makes me sad. There's too much talent on this team for them to have the record that they're having right now.
There's levels to it. You know what I mean? And I think the Mercury are going through it, and they're trying to figure it all out. So, one of the things that you'll never have to figure out is where to get your favorite OG's gummy, and that's by going to ogsbrands.com, checking out their closest dispensary closest to you so you can go check out these delicious gummies. They have all types of flavors. They have a new creamsicle, bunch that you can partake in. They have a mixed bag, which gives you a little bit of the berries. It gives you a little bit of tropical flavors and all that good stuff. They have different blends, indica, sativa. They have the 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio, which we call the happy gummies. So check them out, ogsbrands.com. Again, the pink lemonade also just dropped a couple weeks ago. It's only a limited edition, and you can only get it for maybe the next couple weeks, and then it's done. So check them out. You also must make sure you're over the age of 21 to partake in these things. Sorry, Hayden, you are out of luck.
Not for another month.
Yeah.
Not for another month.
Sounds like a party. In addition to that, obviously Nikki Blue is one of the changes that has happened over the last month. But another change, Jim Pittman will no longer be the GM at the end of this season. He will retire from that position. He will still remain on with the Suns and the Mercury franchise as the CFO. But his reign will come to an end at the end of this season. And Nick Urim will actually take over. And Nick Urim was actually he was a video coordinator with the Suns. And then he moved over when Steve Kerr left the organization to go to Golden State to be the head coach. he went with him to be kind of his right-hand man. Then he moved over into the front office, and now he is back in familiar settings. He's a local kid, a local guy. These are all kids because they're all younger than me. And so I know there's a lot of high regard for what he can bring to the table. He's a very experienced guy. He's seen how a top-level organization can run. And I think one of the things that you cannot dispute, and we saw when this announcement was made, Matt Ishbia talk about his desire and his passion for Mercury basketball, and to make sure that they are a top-level organization and a top-flight franchise as well. I love the fact that he didn't ignore. This wasn't an afterthought, by getting the Mercury when he bought the Suns. This was a package deal, and he wants to elevate the Mercury to another level. And so I think overall good things about this franchise and this organization, and hopefully that will lead to some more wins down the road. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, when Annie was in here a couple weeks ago, she made it very clear that Matt Ishbia has in almost every sentence has said Phoenix Suns and Mercury. He makes sure to pair the two together. It wasn't like you said it best. It's not like he bought the Mercury as an afterthought. Mm-hmm. He bought it with the sole purpose of putting his print on the franchise. And what I think is really cool here is just his willingness to have Phoenix be a destination for players to go, not just for the Suns, but for the Mercury too. I mean, people forget, I'd say besides the Arizona Rattlers, the Phoenix Mercury are probably the most successful franchise in the Valley.
1,000,000%.
They have 3 championships, have probably the greatest women's basketball player ever on God's green earth in Diana Taurasi, and they continue to win, obviously with the exception of this season. But but they've been a consistent winner. I mean, they've been in the playoffs for 10 straight seasons. I'm a big proponent of I don't think a team that makes the playoffs suck. I really don't. I think that if you get into the playoffs, that's a victory in and out of itself, because it's a long season, especially now with a 40-game season. But it's been cool to see. It really has, especially with what Ishbia's sort of commitment to bringing, I don't even want to say rebuilding the Mercury, but just elevating it to where it once was.
I think every franchise faces a point with star players and veteran players and really legendary players that, when is when? You know what I mean? And I think that's a difficult position to be in. And Nick is going to have to navigate that as well in terms of Diana Taurasi, figuring out when some of these key players that you have are actually going to step up, or if you need to get rid of them and get other players in here into the fold. And I think it's also, we talked about this as well. One of the difficult things about the WNBA is that they are not making millions and millions of dollars, right? Mm-hmm. And so to make the flurry of moves that would be necessary to move, to trade players, to acquire players, it's not as easy as it is in the NBA. Because you can't just uproot somebody who's making, let's just say, $100,000 a year across the country to come live in a different state when they might have a family and their wage does not dictate that they can just freely move about the country. This isn't Southwest Airlines, damn it. So you got to make sure that, like Ishbia has made a lot of moves with the Suns and Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant and so on and so forth. But it's a little bit trickier in the WNBA because those moves are not as prevalent as they are in the NBA.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because, like you said, players get traded mid-season. It's not too common, but yeah, imagine if you're going from Seattle to New York. Yeah. Even when Breonna Stewart signed in free agency, I'm like, how? Even like basketball playing aside, moving from Seattle to New York, that's a long distance.
But the only reason why that would even pay off, though, is because it's Breonna Stewart.
Exactly.
And she's going to New York, which means what? More marketing dollars, more ad revenue. Like, she's going to make that money. She's going to be fine.
No, yeah.
But she's the exception, not the rule.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But it's interesting. I wish we could trade. I wish Phoenix could trade. But they only have one draft pick, and it's this year because their draft pick next year goes to New York with the Michaela Onyenwere trade, which is fine. I think she's paid off. Michaela's only 23. as well, which people forget about. I mean, Sophie's 27, Breezy's 27. It's a very unique time in Phoenix Mercury basketball because you know the saying, out with the old, in with the new. This might be it. I think BG has definitely taken the torch, like you alluded to earlier. But if you're gonna make moves, this is the time. Skylar Diggins-Smith still has 1 year left on her contract, then she becomes an unrestricted free agent. A lot of her fans are probably gonna come at my throat, and that's perfectly fine. I don't care. But if she doesn't want to be there, don't make her be there. At least get something.
Yeah.
She's got 1 year left on her contract. Otherwise, she'll become an unrestricted free agent. I doubt she'll re-sign unless if they're so tempted to be like, let's run it back. Let's see what it is, because that's exactly what happened this year.
We've seen the max though.
Yeah.
With this squad, we've seen basically how far they can take it outside of maybe 2 key pieces, you could say.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, man, like, you just gotta, what's it called? Just rebuild. It's okay to suck for a couple of years. It's okay to be terrible and get Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. Listen, they're going to try and tank for Caitlin. Come on, tanking for Caitlin. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
I would love to see Caitlin Clark in that.
That's what I'm saying. She can take the reins from DT.
Yeah, yeah.
Bingo. See, you have your 1 draft pick. Don't waste it. Don't waste it, please.
Waste it. Sue Alexander in the chat says, but it is painful to watch this team play the game. Lack of effort and not playing together. These are pros? Question mark. Caps. Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I think that's a valid remark. And I think sometimes as a pro athlete, when you're in the thick of just a mudslide, it is hard to pull yourself out of it and have that motivation. They are professionals, and we would all love to think that, they got to find a way to get through it, right? But it's not necessarily always the case. We've seen that, hell, we saw it with the Suns, and when they were going through the thick of it and things were not going right, DeAndre Ayton was just in la la land. It's just not a good place to be. I do want to say though, you got to give Nikki Blue a little bit more time to try and really impress her style and her passion into this team. They desperately need this All-Star break. Going into the All-Star break, obviously there's a lot of things that can happen in terms of rest and recovery, but I think the other side of this rest and recovery is also the mental side where, listen, if you're going through it, you just need a break.
Yeah. I mean, and Nikki Blue even talked about that. She talked about that after Tuesday's loss against Vegas, just the mental reset and the ability to, we actually have time to implement an offensive system and schemes and strategy. Because, I mean, she was given the job, but then the next day she had to play. Next day she had a game. And so it'll be really good. I think you'll see. We saw it a little bit. We saw a lot more off-ball movement, a lot more sort of floppy sets just with, Breezy or BG setting a pin down at the top of the, towards the basket, and Sophie or Shug Sutton or Mariah Jefferson, who they need to get her involved more, man. Yeah. She's got one of the prettiest jump shots I've seen in a while. Yeah. And I'm like, woof. I'm like, Mariah, can you give me some lessons on how to be a jump shooter? Because this form is not.
That's not it. That's not it.
You know what? It's good enough. It goes in sometimes, but if Sean Marion can push the damn ball, I think I might be okay.
Yeah, you might be okay. You're not in the NBA, but you might be okay.
Hayden, how tall are you?
5'9".
Yeah, you're not in the NBA.
Yeah,
definitely not in the NBA.
I would get cooked.
Yes, I believe so too. Before we wrap up, obviously we talked about Pittman, we talked about this team and their kind of tailspin right now. One of the things that we talked about as well is the All-Star break, what they might want to try and get accomplished. In hearing what the team had to say this week about the All-Star break, what do you think is the vibe and the pulse of what they're really trying to get accomplished over these next couple of days off?
They're gonna embrace the time off, but they're locked in. They're ready to actually execute this system. A lot of it was literally plug and play.
Locked in at 3-17?
4-15.
4-15. My bad. My bad.
Sorry. But hey, you know what? I don't know what goes on in that locker room. I'm just the messenger. I'm just hearing what I'm told. But I think if anything, like me talking about Michaela Onyenwere stepping up and being a huge role, I would say expect that going forward because she really does have a dynamic skill set. If you're Phoenix, make sure she's one of the players that you keep because her and Breezy are on Sophie and Breezy are on long-term contracts. Michaela's rookie contract, I think it expires this season or next. I'm not too sure, but if anything, you can extend her because she can play anywhere. She's having a career year, averaging over double digits. I mean, one rookie of the year in 2021. Like she's a good player. So if anything, if the Mercury continue to suck, if they continue to #tank for Caitlin, just saying, if they go that route, play players like her. Play the young players.
I don't want to get off topic, and we're not going to,
Yes.
but I do want to say this. It would be quite remarkable if when DT left, she handed off the reins to Caitlin Clark.
That's
I mean,
okay.
Jesus.
Okay. So
I like when he gets excited. He's like, wait.
hold on.
I got something.
No,
Hold on.
because I've been thinking about this since June. And I've had so many people be like, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, listen, Caitlin Clark, like, if you did not watch the Final Four, you need to go back and watch it. Okay. Like, I was in Houston. Funny enough, I was actually covering the men's Final Four. And I was like, part of me wishes I was in Dallas right now because this is pretty freaking sweet. I mean, a 41-point triple-double, come on. I mean, she could pull from anywhere.
Yeah.
She could pull from 30 feet, no problem. She got that dog in her. I'm telling you, man. Like, she fits right in.
Yeah?
She fits right in. And it's like, come on, Kathy Engelbert, WNBA commissioner, if you're watching this, come on. Give Phoenix that number 1 pick. Come on. If you want good basketball.
I mean, how much fun would it be to see DT and Caitlin next to each other playing just one season and the amount of trash talk they both would have on the court? Oh man, and it got physical the other day against the Aces.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it got physical. It got a little dirty. It got a little nasty. That's fine. I mean, throw Caitlin Clark into that mix, and we got something special
That's what I'm
right here. Again, once again, like we're talking about violence, but you don't have to talk about violence when you're taking OGs because it'll calm you down. Go to OGsbrands.com.
Is this a sanctioned ad read?
Wow.
This is two of them. OGsbrands.com is the best place to go find your favorite edible and partake. And,
I got to give you
enjoy.
some. That was
good, right?
That was solid.
My assist game is like Stockton to Malone. I'm telling you what.
Or Nash to Amari.
There you go. Nash to Amari. That's better. Or DT to Brittany.
Ooh, come on.
Last thing we'll say is you went to New York.
I did.
And you got a chance to check out the Liberty versus the Mercury a week ago. And pretty cool experience.
Very.
Did you just go to the game? Did you just go there for the game?
So,
or what were you there for?
So I was on vacation. I was visiting a buddy of mine.
Okay.
And so I flew out of Phoenix at like 8:30, landed at about 4:30 New York time. And I told my buddy, I'm like, listen, I want to take you to this game. It's a good game. At the very least, you're going to see stars. You're going to see stars, right? I'm like, New York might beat the brakes off of Phoenix. I don't know. But we went, and he was a little bit skeptical at first. I'm not going to lie. But he enjoyed it, and it was a lot of scrappiness. Mm-hmm. Diana Taurasi getting a couple good calls that normally she doesn't get. She got Kayla Thornton ejected. That was kind of funny. A couple flagrant 1 fouls. Got her booty out of there. And then Sophie hit a 4-point play. Diana turned it up in the third. Was just hitting threes from everywhere. And like BG turned it up too. Like I think there were 4 or 5 players in double digits.
Wow.
That game. Brianna Stewart dropped 43. Those 2 short of her either career high or franchise high. One of the 2. She played amazing. Those New York fans are different, though.
Yeah.
Those East Coast fans are different. They care about their sports.
Yeah.
They do. Like
they don't want to lose at anything.
No, they don't. But then again, when you're the New York Liberty and you're one of the top dogs, I can understand why. And at first I was like, but again, why can't they play like this every game?
Yeah. The inconsistency, like we talked about, it's been a theme.
It's if it was as inconsistent as my Twitter feed, I think it'd be fine. But nonetheless, still a great time. And my buddy even told me, he's like, what other, like, because he's curious about star teams, like, what other good teams are there? I'm like, Vegas is great. Washington's good when they're healthy. Connecticut is a sleeper. And he's like, might have to check out a Vegas game when they come here. And they come here in September. So I'm like, let's make it a done deal. But Yes, very, very fun. First time at Barclays too. That was definitely fun. Talked to DT afterwards, gave me a pat on the shoulder. She's like, "Hey, should I get home safe?" And I had okay, real quick. This is totally off topic. Totally off topic here. I had my first. I haven't flown too much. I think I've flown like 5 or 6 times in my life. I had my first true flight delay, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was like 5 hours in Newark.
Ooh.
Yeah, in Newark.
One of the worst inconveniences in life. Like if you
Yes.
had to draft the worst things to possibly happen, a flight delay is awful.
It's not top notch. I
Yeah.
know that.
And here's the thing. Like I was texting my brother. I'm like, "Hey, I'm like, you come pick me up." I'm like, "My flight will land at about 7:30," and he's like, "Sure." And it kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. I'm like, "If you want to back out, you can back out now. I don't blame you." And I landed at 12:30 at Sky Harbor, 12:30 Monday morning.
Oh my goodness.
And bless this man's soul, he still came and picked me up. I was like, the fact that you're even awake right now is impressive. But he's like, it's fine. He's like, I don't want you taking an Uber or a Lyft that late at night, especially because I live all the way out in Glendale too. So it's a little bit of a hike. But hey, nonetheless, very fun. I'm glad that you and the squad had fun out in Vegas too.
Yeah.
So I guess we all were kind of partying in our own little unique way.
In a different way. Yeah, a different kind of way. But yeah, listen, man, hopefully they can fix things. They got another opportunity next week. We'll figure out what our show is going to be next week. It's not going to be Monday because they won't have a game until then. So,
That's right.
So it'll be after the All-Star break. So we'll wait until they have one more game before we jump back on. So it'll probably be middle to end of next week. And we'll be right back with you. It'll be Hayden. It'll be me, I'm pretty sure. Unless it's on Friday, then it won't be me. It'll be somebody else. So we'll see. We'll see how this all goes. But before we go, you got to go check out PHNX, go PHNX.com, especially the PHNX locker, because we got a new Mercury shirt in the fold. You should go check it out. It's a nice little fire one. You're going to love it. We have now 2 Mercury shirts in the locker. It's more than the Rising guys. So, please check it out. And become a member. Become a member because we, as diehards, you guys get discounts on all the merch, including these shirts. And if you're not a diehard, you can sign up for just $80 for a whole calendar year, and that includes a brand new shirt. That's phenomenal.
You should. 10 out of 10. Recommend.
There you go.
And plus, I'm not gonna. I will say I did write a diehards piece, so if you subscribe, you might get to see my Mercury mailbag.
There you go.
Little incentive for you.
Just dropping seeds. There you go. That's Hayden Silly. You can follow him at Hayden Silly on Twitter. I'm Saul Bookman. You can follow me at Saul_Bookman. And you can follow the pod at PHNX_Mercury. That's where we live. That's where we're at all the time. Please check it out. My man over here runs the Twitter. So, it's fun to follow along. Let's hope this team turns it around. But until next time, we'll see you later.